Let's continue exploring the universe within art and the art behind minigames. I'm your host, OmLedu, and in this video, we're going to be looking at how to make the minigame Connect 4 in Minecraft. This video was requested by Travis LaFam. I really hope that this answers your questions, and thank you so much for leaving a request and leaving a comment. So at the end of this video, we'll be going over how to use command blocks to make Connect 4, but I want to start off by talking about the mechanics behind the survival version, just in case you want to build this your own custom way. So just like in the real-life version, you're going to be using gravity in order to place your game pieces. In the Minecraft case, you're going to be either using concrete powder to have some color flare, or you can just use gravel or sand to make it cheap. We can also use the big drip leaves in order to automatically break the gravity blocks. And best of all, water can flow through the drip leaves, so you can make an automated collection system as well. This makes it quick and easy to reset the game for another round. Now as for playing the game, if you don't know what Connect 4 is, basically you place a block or place a game piece up at the very top of the machine and it will automatically fall down into the column that you placed it in. The goal is to get 4 blocks in a row, either diagonally or orthogonally. And so players take turn placing 1 block at a time, trying to block their opponent from getting 4 in a row and trying to get 4 in a row themselves. Whoever connects 4 in a row first is the winner. Then once the winner has been decided, you simply flick the lever to reset the game, breaking all of the sand or all of the concrete, and then it'll all end up in this chest over here so that you can pick it up and start again. Now as for the game arena, there are a few things to think about. I actually like this kind of mid-platform right here. It makes it a little easier to look and see what's going on in the game, and it's also a shorter walk to actually get to the top to place your game piece. If you stand on the floor, you can see the game just fine, but walking up the really long staircase to place your piece can be a little disorienting. You can forget which column you wanted to place a piece in. So I would recommend building a platform kind of like this, where the player is just up higher, closer to the top. That way, it's a little less disorienting when they go to place their piece. Now also, of course, glass is super intrusive. I hate the default textures of glass, and if you're not playing with a borderless pack, it can be just super confusing and disorienting and just gross. Glass looks disgusting. So if you want to flip over to creative mode, you could always use barrier blocks instead of glass. Barrier blocks are completely invisible, whereas glass is really gross and intrusive. But for the survival version that uses the drip leaves to break the pieces, you will need walls of some kind. Now the basic idea behind this is that the water can flow through the drip leaves, and so you can push the blocks after they're broken with the drip leaves into a hopper that will then go into the chest. The pistons will cover up the drip leaves so that you can actually place blocks on top of them, and then when the pistons move, they will fall onto the drip leaves and then break. And then this is actually why you need some kind of walls, whether it's glass or barrier blocks, is that the blocks will kind of pop out of the sides if you don't have walls to close them in. Now, you could always just go around and pick them up manually after every game, but I would definitely recommend thinking about building a wall either out of barriers or out of glass. But technically, you don't even really need any of this stuff. 2 people could just manually place sand and gravel in an area and play Connect 4 that way. This is just a nice way to automate it to save a little bit of time. Now, of course, as for the pistons, you can either have the redstone dust just placed on top for simplicity, or you can hide the redstone underneath it by using target blocks. Target blocks will redirect the redstone so that you can just place a line next to the target blocks and it will activate the pistons, just like so. So this is just an easy way to hide the redstone if you don't want the redstone to be visible. And there is a build along near the end of the video for a simple survival version. I just want to touch on all of the different mechanics, partly so that you can build this in a custom way, but also just so you know these mechanics. Like water can actually flow through drip leaves. That's super duper interesting. But items can also get stuck in the water source block, so I would recommend covering up the hopper and covering up the source block like so. Building this sunken into the ground makes it really nice and clean, where all of the extra stuff is kind of hidden, and the only thing that's poking up is the walls, like the glass, or the game frame itself. You will be able to see the pistons, and if you don't like seeing the redstone, again, you can just use target blocks to redirect the redstone in order to hide it. But that's basically it. This game is super duper simple. Not only could you just play it manually, but even to make an automated collection system is super duper easy. And if you want to make it huge, you totally can do that as well. You'll just need some repeaters in order to refresh the redstone so that it activates all of the pistons. And of course, you could run this underneath the pistons using target blocks to redirect the redstone. All of that is super easy and totally up to you. If you have more than 15 pistons, you will need some repeaters. But then for the automated drip leaf collection system, your first one is going to have the water source block, then 6 drip leaves, and then it's going to fall down 1 layer so that the water just keeps on flowing. So the next layer can have 7 drip leaves, and then your final layer can have 8 drip leaves. Just the way that water flows. And then if it's not lined up with the water, you can just use a sign to block the water above the hopper so that the items stop and fall into the hopper. But this allows you to make it as big as you would like to and still have an automated collection system. So if you want a gigantic Connect 4, you could totally do that as well. Or if you're playing in a world that allows command blocks, this is really, really clean. I love this design. All the player has to do is poke a button to summon one of the blocks and it will fall into the corresponding place. You don't need barriers or glass because you use the fill command in order to reset the game. This is really, really nice and clean, and it's super easy. And we'll go over that right after we build the survival version really quick. And for this simple survival version, we're going to dig a hole 2 blocks down that is 3 by 10. Then once you have your 3 by 10 2-block hole, we're going to place a line of blocks along the front and the back, but we're going to leave a little bit of space so that we can place in a container and a hopper off to one of the sides. So like right here, we're going to place a double chest, then we're going to place a hopper going into that double chest in the middle right here. And so there should be 8 blocks before the hopper, because we're going to place a water source block at the very, very end, and it should flow all the way to the edge of the hopper like so. Now we're going to place in 7 drip leaves right here, everywhere except for where the water source block is. And just remember that you can always bone meal drip leaves in order to get more. But then we're going to place solid blocks on top of the water source and on top of where the hopper is. And then we're going to surround the drip leaves in more solid blocks so that we're left with a 1x7 hole right above the drip leaves, like so. And now we just need to add the pistons so that we can cover up the drip leaves with blocks. So we're going to break out these 7 blocks and then put in 7 sticky pistons so that it will cover up the drip leaves when activated. Now we're just going to place a lever. You could really place this lever wherever you want to and then just run the redstone to those pistons. The easiest way is just to put the lever next to the pistons and then run the redstone on top. Or the second easiest way to hide the redstone would be to place targets under here, redirect the redstone using those targets, like so. But really, as long as the lever activates the pistons, you can place the lever anywhere that you want. Now as for the dimensions of this game, the default real-life game of Connect 4 typically is played at 7 by 6. That is 6 blocks tall and 7 wide. So we're already 7 wide, so I would recommend just making this 6 blocks tall. But if you wanted to make it square, you can make it 7 by 7, or in this case, I'm making it like 7 by 8, just so that you can see what it looks like when it's a little bit taller. So really, the height, especially, is totally up to you. One thing to keep in mind is that the taller it is, the longer it will take the player to get up to the top, unless you build a viewing platform that puts the player up a little higher to begin with. So really, I would recommend building this 7 by 6, but that's totally up to you. And then it's also nice to have some sort of frame. I like to use concrete because it's nice and clean, but when it comes to decoration, as always, that is totally up to you. Then the last thing we need to do is make a way for the players to get up here so that they can actually place in their game pieces. I would recommend something that's fast, like a staircase or a bubble elevator. I wouldn't use ladders because the player might forget which column he wanted to play in by the time he actually gets up there, since ladders are kind of slow. And so again, that's why I would recommend building a viewing platform somewhere kind of in the middle, like here, just so that it's like easier for the player to see what's going on, but also it's a quicker journey for the player to make it up to the top. Because it can be a little disorienting figuring out which column you want to place in and then actually running up to the top to place in that column. But once you figure out a game arena that you enjoy and makes it easy for you to play, you are basically done. There are like 3 more things that I would like to touch on before we move on to the command block version, but it's playable. It's totally done, it's totally automated. You and a friend can now take turns placing in blocks until one of you connect 4. One thing though, I do like the top made out of glass so that you can actually kind of see the game while you're up there. It is functional, but it's not very pretty. So one thing I like to do is use slabs at the very top so that you have like a definitive top to the game. So that you know that you can't place blocks above where the slabs are. This also gives you a kind of a lip so that you can aim at to place blocks, and it looks kind of nice in general. It gives kind of a cap to the top of the game. Without the cap at the top, it is kind of tempting just to keep building upwards. So having a top out of solid blocks or slabs is just a nice way to show that you can't place any more blocks above this point. Now, as for moving the lever, you could move it into this hole super duper easy. You could place the lever on the block that I just broke, or you can just run some more redstone dust to place the lever wherever you want to. Just be aware that if the lever is locking the hopper, it might make it a little more difficult for your collection system to actually collect the items. But you could always cover up your pistons with slabs if you want to hide them a little bit. But if you're playing this from the ground level, it will make seeing the bottom row a little more awkward. But if you're playing from a viewing platform, this won't matter. So if you want to hide the pistons, just know that you totally can. But that's it for the simple survival version. Now let's talk about the super fancy one that uses command blocks. If you're playing in a world that allows command blocks, I would highly recommend this version. It is super fun just making the blocks fall. You could even just kind of mess around with it, not even play Connect 4. But it's super easy, super clean, and super simple. Basically, you just have one button per column and then one command block per button. And then it just uses the /setBlock command in order to place in some concrete powder, which then of course will fall down into the game, just like with the survival version or the real life version, because those blocks use gravity. So start off by placing one button on top of a block for every single column in your game. Then we're going to place a command block underneath one of these buttons, and we just need to figure out the coordinates for the block that is above that column. So one block above where the top of your game is going to be, we need to figure out what the coordinates for this block is. So you can either stand on it to figure out what the coordinates are, or there's actually a fancy way for you to copy coordinates. Simply open up your chat menu and then go up here at the top, make sure it says block position, and then just click copy. This will copy the coordinates of the block that you are looking at. Now this isn't default to on, but it's easy to turn on. Go to your settings, scroll down to where it says creator, and then that will have the enable copy coordinate UI. Simply turn that to on, and that will allow you to copy the coordinates of either where you're standing or the block that you are looking at. In this case, we want it to know the block position of the block that we're looking at. Then go back to your command block, and we're going to type in /setBlock. Then we're going to paste those coordinates. So if you're using a keyboard, you can press Ctrl-V in order to paste. But if you're using a controller, I'm not sure how you paste. Let me know in the comments if there is a way to copy and paste text on a controller. But then we're just going to type in our concrete powder and the color. All of this should be default, so impulse unconditional needs redstone. And now when we poke this button, it will set a concrete block up into the sky, which will then fall down because it's powder. Now we just need to do this for every button. Another neat trick is that if you look at the command block and you hold down Control and then pick block, it will give you a command block that has the data from the one that you've already written. So if we place down this one, it will already have the /setBlock coordinate and then your concrete powder. Now the coordinates will be for the first row. So next up, all we have to do is figure out which coordinate changes when we go from left to right inside the game. And so the number, disregarding the negative, goes down. So we just need to go into this one and then make this number go down. So 73 instead of 74. And so now, since we have a command block that already has the data in it, so it already has most of the stuff written, we can just place this all along the edge and then just make the number go down each time. So this one will be 72, this one will be 71, this one will be 70, and then so on and so forth. This can really save a ton of time since you don't have to write, out the concrete powder or the set block or any of that stuff. But having Control plus pick block is a really great tool to get used to. If you aim at a chest that has stuff in it and you Control pick block, it will give you a chest with that stuff in it. So it's just super handy. Pick block in general is great for creative and for survival, but having Control plus pick block is really great for creative. Now as for your clearing command, this one will just be /fill, then 2 sets of coordinates, and then air. And then this will clear out the entire game board so that it resets it all to air and deletes all of the concrete powder. Your first coordinate is going to be that very first coordinate that you copied, this one up here, kind of above this, or diagonally from the edge of the game. Then your second coordinate is going to be the opposite corner, so this one down here. So we're going to go in here, we're going to make sure this is block position, and we're going to copy this block's position. Then we're going to go back over here, We're going to paste in that second coordinate after the fill in the first coordinate, then we're going to type in air. Everything else will be default, so impulse unconditional needs redstone. And now whenever we activate this command block with a button or a lever or a redstone signal, it will fill in that entire middle section with air. Then of course you could always put this under the ground if you want to, cover it up with a block with a lever or a button on it. And now when you press that button, it will fill in the entire middle section with air, thus resetting the game. And that's it. It's super duper nice, clean, and easy. I absolutely love this command block version. It is super awesome. But the survival friendly one is cool as well, especially if you're not playing with command blocks. I really love Connect 4 and I love minigames. But that's all we got for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, share, and subscribe. It really helps out the video, helps out the channel, and makes me super happy. I've been having a whole lot of fun designing these minigames, so I really hope you enjoy them as well. From the simple ones like Connect 4 and Drip Leaf Spleef, to the more complex ones like this pachinko machine. And one of my friends recently requested a horse racing type game, so we'll see if I can come up with something for that as well. And be sure to leave a comment to let me know that you are here. Even if you don't know what to say, just tell me hi. I would love to hear from you. Or if you have any critiques or criticisms for the video editing or the video itself, let me know. I'm always trying to improve my video making skills, so your feedback would be greatly appreciated. Also, as always, if you have any questions or requests, talk to me about it down in the comments and I will do my best to help you out. And a big shout out to all of my subscribers, supporters, and to you. It is because of all of you that I can continue making these videos and that the channel keeps on growing. So I really hope you enjoy, and thank you so much for your support. Y'all are all totally awesome. So I hope to see you again soon, but until then, I've been your host, OmLedu, sharing a fun mini game with you, and reminding you, as always, don't forget to have fun. Bye-bye.